There have been a tremendous amount of wildfires plaguing the West as of late. This one is in Oregon, and it looks like Mordor. I have been very intrigued by these wildfires, and I happened to come across my own much smaller version of this here in the Salt Lake Valley. The other day when I was on my way downtown to film a photo walk, I noticed that there was some smoke coming over the mountain directly behind downtown Salt Lake City. I immediately assumed, and later realized I assumed correctly, that it was indeed a wildfire. So I shot past downtown and decided I would go into photojournalist mode and try to capture this wildfire. When I finally made it around and up the mountain and got anywhere near the wildfire, I realized that they were pretty serious about blocking off the public from the fire quite a ways back. I wanted to get close to this wildfire, and I realized that this was going to become a challenge that I would have to navigate. My first attempt to get close to the fire was, I think, an obvious approach, which was see if you can go past the police officer that is blocking the road. I decided I would ask and inquire on if I would be able to get through on virtue that I'm a photographer and I want to tell a story. I want to change the world with my photos. Okay, so I am here trying to get closer to the fire. I don't know if they're going to let me go through though. So I am going to just ask. How are you? So I'm a photojournalist. I was just curious, is this as far as I can go?
Yes, this right here is as far as you can go.
That's as far. I'm not trying to hurt myself. I literally just want to get a good vantage point of the fire.
The only people we're letting in are the residents.
Sure.
Media's kind of like right here, and then we have a staging area in North Canyon Park where we're actually talking about it.
I see. Do you know of anywhere where I could get a good vantage point?
Not down here. Not without really actually going up and getting in there, just because where it's at, you can't really see it.
Sure.
It's all you can see is smoke.
Sure. Okay. All right. Very good, man. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
He was kind enough, but he said no, and I realized I had to take a different route. Well, I just spoke to the news guy, too, to see if he had any sort of advice. And the only vantage point that he knows of is, I think, the one I was seeing on the way up here, which was kind of from the main road. I want to find a spot, though. I know there's a spot where I can maybe see something. This is the hunt. I went to a nearby military base and found a tank. Now, the key was then to find the keys to this tank. I drove around a little bit, aided by my GPS, attempting to find some sort of route to get up closer to the fire. As I was searching, I did come across a firefighting helicopter that was parked in a church parking lot. And there was a crew to the left of it. I pulled into the parking lot. They immediately eyeballed me and said, "What's this guy up to?" And then I realized that this helicopter was about to take off and go fight the fire. One of the firefighters walked over to me and inquired about why I was in the parking lot so close to the helicopter, which I totally understand. I said I'm a photographer, and he said, "That's fine, just stay in your car while the helicopter lifts off." Oh, okay, I know. They're gonna be mad at me after this. I wanted to see this helicopter and take a picture, but they're gonna turn me around. Hi there. Sorry, I'm just a photographer.
You're good. Just stay here until I left the place.
Okay, you bet. Interesting. I then realized that I needed to get in the sky. So I went to the local Air Force base. F-16s are surprisingly hard to fly. I drove a little bit more, came across another police officer who was blocking the way up into the neighborhood. At this point I realized they were very serious about keeping people extremely far away from this fire, to an extent that seems a bit excessive. So this could provide an interesting vantage point, but that's not gonna work. All right, more talking. How's it going? Hi, I'm just a photographer. I was just wondering if I could get up there to get a vantage point.
Sorry, we can't let anyone up here other than people who are going to pick up family members, okay?
Got it.
Thanks.
Very good.
You can come down here where everybody else is at or go to North Canyon Park.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, man. Have a good day.
You too.
Man, they're serious about this. There's definitely an all hands on deck kind of feel happening right now. Got these guys strolling around. I was surprised at how hard it actually was to see the fire at all. There were a lot of obstacles everywhere I went. I then decided to take a route that took me all the way around and back into sort of a canyon where I thought I may be able to see the fire. I climbed a hill, got my cardio in for the day, and realized that I was on the other side of a mountain that was blocking any view of the fire, but I was able to see the helicopters flying over and the planes and what have you. There was one point where other people were gathering, a lot of other people were gathering, with their long lenses, binoculars, and what have you. I stopped by there for a second. I drove around a little bit more, continuing to look for a vantage point. I ended up pulling up in a neighborhood, getting out of my car, walking through a field, and climbing a small mountain to get a vantage point, but it wasn't really a great vantage point, and I realized that I was not going to get anywhere close to the fire. But oh boy was I diligent. Fast forward a couple of days. Red. I was using the interwebs and I realized that there was another fire. This one was further north and bigger. When I arrived, I realized a couple of things. First, that they were actually pushing people back further from this one than the previous fire, because it was so much bigger. However, this fire was much more visible from a lot of different viewpoints, and my goal became to get as close as possible and or to find the best vantage point possible. I first pulled up in a neighborhood and I've been realizing something, that neighborhoods, at least around here, tend to have houses all the way around them in a sense that you can't get to the other side of the houses. When you're in the neighborhood, you're kind of locked in. You would have to walk through somebody's property, which where I come from, you get shot when you do that. Anyway, I stopped in said neighborhood and realized that I had a vantage point of the fire on the side of the mountain, right in the middle of one house and another. Even though I was very far away from the fire, I felt like this would actually be maybe an interesting shot. I intentionally used the house in the foreground as a framing mechanism for the fire in the background. My goal was to sort of show the story that this can be very damaging, that this house, if that fire got big enough, could burn down. I then made my way out of the neighborhood and back onto the main road to look for another vantage point. Once again aided by Google Maps. Thank you, Google Maps. I drove up a hill into another neighborhood with very nice houses. There was a nice open spot where other people were actually watching the fire as well, and I thought that this would be a good opportunity to capture some photos. Did it get all the way down there? That's insane.
And all those houses that are right in there, those are all $750,000 plus houses.
Sure, sure. It was when I looked out and saw the blackened grass that I realized how big this fire had actually gotten. I later learned that it covered 619 acres and destroyed 6 structures. With both of these fires, I wish I would have been able to get closer, and finding successful shots was something that was a bit of a challenge. The story that I think I want to tell within this story is that creating takes patience and diligence and endurance. I found some successful shots here, but I have not met my goals yet. Your ability to endure and creatively problem solve is what is going to separate you from other creators and whatever you may do creatively. I will let you guys know when I'm able to document a wildfire in a way that is a bit closer to what my goals are. But that is the end of this video. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.